Hasan Piker runs and hides because communism would not survive an encounter with the far right. It just wouldn't. All that sentimentalism, all that sappy, bleeding heart bullshit about free healthcare. Okay, we'll give you free healthcare too. I don't really care that much. I want to close the borders. I want to stop being harassed on the train. I want to be able to live in most of the city and not have to be a war zone. I don't want to have our country run by an Israeli fifth column, a Jewish fifth column. You would not survive that encounter, and you know that. And Hasan knows that if there were ever a dialogue, an ongoing dialogue, or even just a sit down, that whole fantasy, this bourgeois fucking champagne socialism would not survive an encounter with an actual real American, with an actual real American that's a son of working class people. And that's like the delicious and rich irony, is that Hasan is a Nepo baby. He's a millionaire Nepo baby who's on all the mainstream platforms. How did he get his start in media? His uncle. And this is a guy lecturing us about generational wealth. Why don't we redistribute the Young Turks media opportunities? How about we redistribute the Twitch subscriptions?
Alright guys, so it looks like Hasan has finally posted a video on the right-wing boogeyman Nick Fuentes. And if you haven't been keeping up with Hasan's and Nick's history, it's basically been total silence from Hasan ever since their first debate hosted by Asmongold. And since then, though, he's definitely been keeping tabs and watching Nick's rise, especially after Nick's Iran war coverage, his recent podcast appearances, and his tirades against Tucker and Trump. And fast forward to yesterday, it looks like Hasan has finally dropped a video on Nick, and it's obvious he's more rattled than ever, just like when Sam Hyde called him out. Another Voldemort-like figure Hasan always refused to mention. But it looks like the dam finally burst, and Hasan had no choice but to address Nick's rise. And in context, Hasan himself admitted before that Nick is a skilled orator, who he says is normalizing a dangerous race realist framework. And you can tell Hasan's actually really scared because Nick's popularity, to what Hasan perceives, is only going up.
Ultimately, clips that you see of far-right neo-Nazi style figures like Nick Fuentes are becoming increasingly more dangerous at a time when there is a real need by the left, by liberals, for bold anti-Trump, anti-fascist voices. And a skilled orator is capable of taking advantage of that void in discourse by routinely undermining Trump, routinely attacking Trump from an understandable perspective, from a real genuine and valid point of critique, to draw the attention and gain popularity and gain charitability amongst a broader audience, to then slam in and normalize this somewhat effective, dangerous race realist framework.
Yeah, so you can clearly see that Hasan now is legitimately admitting Nick has the charisma and the message that's pulling people in. And now he's sounding the alarm.
The Daily Wire may be facing some broader media trends that were out of his control. The energy on the right-wing internet is headed in an increasingly radical Nick Fuentes-style direction. And Boring and his crew look dull by comparison. Yup. Will is someone who tracks right-wing radicalism by his profession. This is what he has done, so he's way more tapped in than the average media personality on this sort of stuff, so he's right. He's right. Zoomers are groypers. If you are under the age of 35 and you find yourself in the right-wing media landscape, you either are a person that considers themselves to be, did I say Will Neff? I meant Will Sommer. Will Sommer. I don't think I said Will Neff. Will Sommer, the fucking author of this article, the journalist. Oh my God, chatters. Jesus Christ. I have a fucking audience of morons as well. Holy fuck. I just said Will. I didn't say last name. Will Sommer, the journalist. So, anyway, as I was explaining, as demonstrated by my fucking audience's like level of stupidity here as well, audiences are getting dumber and dumber, okay? They want dumb slop.
Anyways, in context, you can see this in other small anecdotes, with people liking Nick more than Hasan, where you had the Nelk boys praising Nick this one time after their Butch Netanyahu podcast. But let's not forget how Hasan himself agrees that the whole right-wing internet scene is definitely shifting toward that of Nick's points.
We might need some Red Bulls.
I'll take a coffee.
Can we get some food too?
He's coming, man.
Okay. W, yeah, that was good. That was a good combo.
32,000 boys.
Nick is
He's more chill.
Way more chill.
I know. Well, you never know what
I mean, you never
can catch people in, but
yeah,
he was cool.
Again, we're not really good at pressing people, so if he's ever done something fucked, we won't be the one to press him.
When people Nick seemed not ready.
Nick seemed way more cool, bro.
You want to send Myron the invite?
Shout out Kevin Milo. Damn, our chat liked. I will say our chat liked. Yeah, our chat liked Nick a lot more than Hasan, so this is about to be interesting. It's interesting to see who chat likes in real time. People love Nick in our chat.
Hasan's Hasan's a bro. Like, he's a bro, but he has different views.
That's fine.
I mean, even his boy shouted out Nick. Even people in Hasan's own circles are tipping their hats to Nick. Like when his guest straight up acknowledged how Nick is blowing up even without wanting to drop his name first.
This guy do it, man. Like, you're able to talk on your own and run a show unscripted by yourself and be engaging.
Yeah.
That's a skill, man.
I try.
There's a guy on the right, dare I say his name,
Who
seems to be making a splash doing something similar.
Who is that? Not Nick Fuentes, I hope, because that motherfucker's a straight Nazi.
Well, yeah, he is. But
Yeah.
like, you know, look, there's a lot of infighting now between the right. I welcome it, man. Let them eat each other alive.
Yeah. No, he is a nefarious force in my opinion, but
Anyway, so Hasan's actual video, the man absolutely loves to point fingers. So here's him in the video, for some reason blaming Destiny for all people, basically handing Nick a comeback on a silver platter. And to his credit, also hilariously mentioning how Destiny's kid basically turned into a groper. And then he gets all salty because some people in Destiny's community are saying that Nick's at least more upfront and less of a threat to America than Hasan himself.
and for a very long time, utterly irrelevant, unfortunately, has been platformed and revitalized his career directly as a consequence of like hanging out with Molestany, who openly talked about how he gave him a lifeline, and then, you know, going all the way to like hanging out with Kanye and even dining with the motherfucking current president. But ultimately, maybe not just a lifeline, maybe even more than just a lifeline. Anyway, but that's besides the point. So the other reason why I don't, give him any, any platform whatsoever on this broadcast is because like he is a skilled orator, a very dangerous and skilled orator who recognizes the media landscape and the media environment. You just don't get it. Epstein was going to de-radicalize his entire audience and instead ended up handing over half of his own and his own kid. I know. Yeah, that was a spectacular failure, by the way, in terms of like what sex pestiny, molestany, Epstein was trying to do, right? Like he was like, oh, dude, his audience loved talking about how like you don't understand, dude. You got to debate this guy. Destiny's just like owning him in the marketplace of ideas, and while doing so, he's just like destroying. He's destroying him in the marketplace of ideas and making his audience more liberal. And instead of that happening, it turns out his son is now a groiper and a Nick Fuentes acolyte, and many in his community are also in that same group now. I wonder how that happened. What a fucking spectacular failure. It turns out when you get chicken and waffles with the fucking neo-Nazi and you normalize him as just like any other type of content creator, or even routinely say you have much more respect for him because he's at least like honest and organizing for his values, as opposed to Hasan, who is a much more dangerous prospect for an American future, which are things that his community has routinely said. His community actively used to say that this supposedly liberal community actively used to say that I'm a more dangerous figure for American politics than Nick fucking Fuentes.
And pointing even more finger to libs tuning into Asmongold instead of him, saying apparently it makes Asmon look all reasonable and centrist. And get this, in the video he calls Asmongold a straight pipeline to Nick Fuentes.
When liberals are more predisposed with attacking their left flank for demonstrating true anti-fascist principles, then of course someone who presents themselves as a centrist like Asmongold is going to rise to the occasion and actually unironically build a momentum and an audience off of said liberals who now tune into him to think, well, he's at least better than Hasan. He's not fucking dangerous radical like Hasan is. Meanwhile, Asmongold is also a pipeline to Nick Fuentes. This is it. So this message isn't for whoever you think it's for. It's not for like the molestany type content creators. Okay, those guys are never going to change their fucking behavior. This is for their audiences who do actually care about growing fascism in this country and have just been deluded into thinking that the most successful way to combat it is by attacking the fucking left flank of the Democratic Party and assuming that people who are critical of the supposed left flank of American politics are actually critical because they have some sinister purpose behind it, because they want Donald Trump to win or some shit.
So yeah, it's classic Hasan, basically mad that people aren't sticking to his echo chamber, instead finding voices that don't scream at them for thinking differently. And he's basically admitting his own side is cannibalizing itself while the right builds steam. But yeah, you have Hasan doubling down and saying that the biggest fallout from Destiny beefing with him is this whole Asmongold phenomena exploding, which in turn apparently makes people like Nick seem way more approachable to the average viewer. So I'm just saying it's just pure jealousy. Like, Hasan's like, look what you libs are doing. You're just creating this monster by infighting, which is total nonsense.
So when you do have a guy who is able to cut through the fucking noise and develop a major audience online, someone like myself, they get fucking tarred and feathered by dumb fuck liberals and also even dumb fuck leftists who believe the dumb fuck liberals and the dumb fuck Republicans. Okay? This is something that I tried to explain to people in the past where I was like, look, liberals, you did it. You did it. You successfully undermined your left flank. And in the process of doing that, of course, someone right wing was going to rise up to the occasion and come across as a completely normal centrist, right? That's the Asmongold phenomena. The most consequential aspect of like the destinies of the world consistently coming after me for their own personal narcissistic vengeance quest has made it so that I have so many fucking ridiculous claims that are completely made up about me swirling around in the ecosystem for all of the dumb fuck apolitical people to tune into, with a network of slop tubers that are constantly pumping out this kind of content, that ultimately people that don't actually get any sort of fucking critical examination of their commentary or their worldview get to fucking rise up to the top.
And if you don't remember this, Gem, it absolutely shows how jealous Hasan is of Nick's growth. And you have Hasan here equating Nick to Itamar Ben-Gvir, like the zero daylight between an American streamer and an Israeli politician.
Don't you think the enemy of your enemy can temporarily be your friend, even though you don't know the temporary ally is a piece of shit, but the enemy's far worse? No, you're crazy. Because if given, first of all, especially in the United States of America, are you fucking kidding me? Are you insane? No, absolutely not. The reason why I refuse to align with fucking Nazis and anti-Semites is because their worldview is the identical worldview of Israel. What the fuck? It's just the targets are different. There is nothing different fundamentally between what Nick Fuentes believes and like Ben-Gvir, okay? The only difference is who is doing the violence and who is receiving the violence. That's it. That's it. And if you don't understand like why I abhor anti-Semites and Nazis, and you just simply think that like I hate Israel for some other reason, like what the fuck are we doing here? There is no difference between Nick Fuentes and Ben-Gvir. Ben-Gvir is Jewish, and he is a Jewish supremacist neo-Nazi. Nick Fuentes is a Christian neo-Nazi of Hispanic background, even though he's a white supremacist. That's crazy.
You will never control your own bodies. Your body, our choice.
So now you have the context with Hasan clearly trying to paint Nick as some extremist boogeyman trying to scare his audience. And keep that in mind for Nick's rebuttal, because it's obvious Hasan's been dodging him for ages, absolutely stewing over it, and only now finally working up the guts to say his name out loud in a video. And in Nick's response, he absolutely doesn't miss a beat.
And it's like the far left, these guys are just like fucking defective at this point. I don't even think they know why they do what they do, you know? And the reason that the far left is threatened by me is because I'm better than them. I'm going to take their market share. And you want to know why? Because I can talk about Jews. I can talk about black people. I can talk about trannies. I'm not beholden to a crowd of nut jobs that just can't talk about basic reality. You go on the far left, and some of the things I say appeal to them, like about Gaza and like about Israel and so on. But on the far left, you can't talk about Judaism. You don't think that the far-right Jewish extremists in Israel, like Meir Kahane, who said that all non-Jews should be enslaved or killed, you don't think that has something to do with what's happening there? You don't think that Bezalel Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, you don't think that their religious Zionism has anything to do with that? We can't talk about that. Like they're handicapped by these rules, these like constraints that they imposed on themselves a long time ago. This like wokeism. Same goes with black people. You know, they want to talk about the working man, the working class. Okay, communist fuckface. Inflation is killing all of us. Wages are stagnant. Housing is getting expensive for me. My homeowner's insurance has doubled in the past 4 years. Everything. I exclusively eat McDonald's and fast food. It's tripled. Okay, working class heroes. Okay, spokesman of the proletariat. You explain to me why I can't talk about how we're all broke. We can all barely get by. We want to go enjoy our weekend when we're done with work, and we're getting mugged and carjacked. You have package thieves stealing any Amazon package that lands on your doorstep. It happened to me a few days ago, and it's always the usual suspects. So you're a spokesman for the proletariat, the working man, the working class. Well, who do you think is getting abused here by these violent black adolescents in a city like Chicago or New York? Who's making it unaffordable to live there? Why do you think we can't go on public transit and therefore need to have a car, need to have a car service? Why do you think it's so expensive to live in the city? Because the whole South Side and half the West Side is uninhabitable. Why? Because of violence. It's like, so the reason that the far left is terrified is because they are kind of clocking some of the issues, but they're completely constrained by woke and liberal ideology. And I know they don't identify as liberal, but that on some level, that's what it is. This like blank slateism. They're absolutely constrained. They can't talk about the real issues here. So when they talk about Israel, they have to talk about settler colonialism. They cannot talk about the Jewish crime syndicate that runs America and is in bed with Israel. They cannot talk about black crime. They have to talk about black and brown bodies and an unarmed black man was killed. It's like, brother, have you been to this fucking city? Seriously. It's endless like this. And so the far left, these people, they don't want to talk because they have cloistered themselves away. They have created these ridiculous rules for themselves. They can't even acknowledge reality that we all see. And it's like, look, you could be a communist and talk about how black people are predators in Chicago here. You can be a communist and talk about how religious Judaism, Jewish identity, well, first of all, it happens to be very bourgeois in many ways, but also happens to be a big root cause of what's happening in Gaza and many of the things in America. They know that they would not survive the encounter. That's why they run and hide. Hasan Piker runs and hides because communism would not survive an encounter with the far right. It just wouldn't. All that sentimentalism, all that sappy, bleeding heart bullshit about free healthcare. Okay, we'll give you free healthcare too. I don't really care that much. I want to close the borders. I want to stop being harassed on the train. I want to be able to live in most of the city and not have to be a war zone. I don't want to have our country run by an Israeli fifth column, a Jewish fifth column. You would not survive that encounter, and you know that. And Hasan knows that if there were ever a dialogue, an ongoing dialogue, or even just a sit down, that whole fantasy, this bourgeois fucking champagne socialism would not survive an encounter with an actual real American, with an actual real American that's a son of working class people. And that's like the delicious and rich irony is that Hasan is a Nepo baby. He's a millionaire Nepo baby who's on all the mainstream platforms. How did he get his start in media? His uncle. And this is a guy lecturing us about generational wealth. Why don't we redistribute the Young Turks media opportunities? How about we redistribute the Twitch subscriptions? So, you know, as long as he's going to sit there and take shots from over there, yeah, inside of that woke fantasy land, they'll all be very confident in their ideology. But the reason that they don't want me to talk to Jimmy Dore, the reason they're screaming, he's a Nazi, but he said this, but he said that. Let him talk. We can talk. Let people judge. Oh, people said this. Hasan said America deserved 9/11. Now he's going to grandstand about, but 8 years ago he said race mixing was wrong. Get the fuck out of here, you fucking poser, you fucking faggot poser. I'm so sick of these posers, man. You know, he's a literal Nazi. He says that genetics are real. Okay, and you said that like America deserves 9/11. You want kids to get their dick and balls cut off. Let's just talk. We're human beings. Talk.
Anyways, what do you guys think? Hasan got owned, I'm sorry. And the champagne socialist bit was too on the nose. And the fact that Nick's been stealing his spotlight on issues like Israel and Palestine and winning over his audience, basically rebutting him and exposing Hasan as the coward. Anyways, I love to see Hasan debate Nick. It's long overdue, and now Hasan mentioned Nick and Nick responding consequently. Anyways, drop your thoughts below in the comments and smash that like button if you enjoyed. Peace.